Welcome to the podcast of Herts Consulting.
Hello and welcome to the Herts Consulting podcast, episode 97 already. I had the pleasure of having with me today Roland Seddon. Roland is the Managing Director at MRK Associates, which is an independent recruitment and career consultancy focused on providing specialized knowledge and advice to the clients and candidates, mainly on the finance and hospitality sector. And that's what we want to discuss today about his experience, his knowledge about the industry, what is going on about recruitment, the challenges that the industry is facing at the moment. So Roland, I'm sure he's going to have the answers to all these questions. So Roland, hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Pablo. Nice to see you.
Same here. Thanks again for your time to be here today and to talk about this hot topic, which is recruitment at the moment in the hospitality industry. But as always, I'd like you to recap and share a bit of your story. So in a few lines, a couple of minutes, how have you gone from, all those years of experience up until your current role as Managing Director at MRK?
Make me sound old, Pablo. So before I set up MRK, which was 11 years ago in January, scarily, I graduated from Bristol University in economics and accounting, and then went to join one of the big corporate recruitment companies. I had 12 years with them, 8 jobs, and I sort of worked my way around the southeast, really, setting up offices with them after a couple of years, running regions, running a number of offices. I ran London for them through the 2008 financial services crash, which was interesting. And then did a national strategy job for a sort of year and a half after that, and then got to the point of deciding actually now was the time to set up MRK. So I guess learned best practice, learned how to do things, and then set up MRK to try and bring that into a different environment.
Right. Thank you. So reading from your LinkedIn description, it says it's a recruitment and career consultancy focused on providing specialist knowledge to both clients and candidates. That's the official term. Yep. Now, with your own words, how would you describe MRK?
Well, we're a niche specialist recruitment business. So we've got 3 arms of what we do. The first and where we started was finance recruitment. That's the biggest bit. And then we were working with a number of clients around Hertfordshire, Bourne Leisure, TUI, Whitbread, etc. And they started asking us if we could help find them a revenue manager. And it was born, the revenue management division was born from there, really. We realized that it was a whole separate industry, separate sector, specialist skills. And we came at it from that specialist white collar analytical point of view, rather than a hospitality recruiter, which the industry had seemingly done. And then our third arm has developed since that. So with revenue management evolving to become really split into more strategic and more data analytics, we've developed our data analytics division. So we've now 3 divisions: finance, revenue management, and data analytics, and trying to provide that sort of one-stop data shop, really, to employers across the UK.
Okay, so 3 arms. I'll focus obviously on the hospitality, which is the area that I focus. So recruitment, it's obviously a very well-known term, but maybe career consultancy is not that well-known. So what does it mean for a client, for a candidate?
Yeah, well, looking at this across candidates and clients, 2 different things. Our aim with the career consultancy element was very much to work with people over the long term. I think recruitment can be seen as a short term, find someone for a job, move on to your next client, and that's it. Whereas what we've tried to always do from day one is understand from a client's point of view what their plans are, what they're trying to do over a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then work with them and help them understand, what they need. What's in the market, what if they're going to recruit this type of person, are they still going to be there in 12, 24, 36 months time? From a candidate point of view, it's really, the idea is to work with them over the course of their career. There's a big difference if you're graduating from a university, stepping into a revenue analyst job. How do you get to become a revenue manager? How do you then get to become a head of or a director of, and we're seeing now people in revenue management become chief execs. So there's a proper career path. So for us, it's about trying to help give that advice over the path of a career, not just one job and forget about them and move on.
Okay, so going with them throughout their career. And what about the roles? Because the pandemic is changed a lot of things, especially with the remote work. But the profiles in particular, are you seeing many changes on the roles, on the profiles? Have they evolved a lot lately?
Honestly, I'd say no. I mean, I think, revenue management is evolving anyway, and has been for a few years, in terms of where it's going. It's becoming more strategic. It's the data analytics is in a way being taken away from it. I think, the jobs of revenue management at the moment, we've got a huge amount of cluster revenue manager jobs dotted from across Wales, up in Scotland, down in London. I mean, the jobs are still fairly similar. A small hotel needs a revenue manager, and that job is still fairly similar. So I don't see, from that point of view, that the revenue management roles changed so dramatically over the course of COVID. I think other parts, I think COVID has affected other things like staff shortages and whatever, but the actual job of a revenue manager hasn't changed so much. I think what has changed maybe is we've seen probably the commercial director role become more prevalent, and that's overseeing and starting to look at sales, marketing and revenue management as one area. And I think that's probably something that's happened as some organizations have reduced numbers slightly during the pandemic. Those commercial director jobs tying in all the different functions, I think has probably been the biggest development.
Let's say that kind of breaking the silos, as we mentioned in the past.
100%. Yeah. That was talked about a lot during the pandemic, breaking down the silos, wasn't it?
Yeah, hot topics. And what about the clients? What are they needing the most at the moment?
Systems. So revenue management systems is definitely high on the agenda. There's a number of businesses I can think of where they're putting in new systems, they're upgrading systems there, and that might be RMSs, but also it could be reporting tools, it could be some data analytics stuff, your Tableaus and Power BIs and all those sort of things. So we're seeing a number of different types of system roles that are really prevalent. I mean, don't get me wrong, you've still got lots and lots of revenue managers. People still need the doers at the moment. I think one thing I would say I've not seen too much, actually, is there's not been a lot of director level recruitment. There's not been a lot of, we found last year there was a bit more of that, where, some people had lost their jobs, and then the one or two organizations were trying to get in new leaders to then see them through the pandemic. And I think that a lot of the businesses feel they've got the structure in at the senior level. They saw them through the pandemic or are seeing them through, and therefore they don't need to recruit them at the moment.
Okay, so that'll be the change on the roles being sought at the moment. Now, it's, I don't know if it's a buyer's or a seller's market, how you call it, on the industry and the recruitment. I mean, the companies are finding it very challenging to fulfill some roles. Are they able to attract top professionals? Are salaries or conditions being offered improving because of that lack of talent?
Yeah, I think salaries are changing. I think, interestingly, I would say the big brands haven't changed the salary brackets. The big groups, they're graded. So you've got so many people doing the same job, it's difficult for them to change it without having to give everybody a pay rise. And it's not really the market to give everybody a pay rise. So I think the big brands haven't changed. I think the small hotel groups where they've had to get, a revenue manager in Cardiff or Cheltenham or Bristol or whatever, those jobs have, I think generally the salaries have increased. I think there's been a high demand for people. I think many of these hotels have opened again or got busier again, and maybe the reservations person was overseeing revenue during COVID. They now need to get a full-on revenue manager in, and they're realizing that everyone's fighting over the same pool of people. So that, I think for the small hotels, definitely there's been an increase in salary. And the ironic thing is, it's those small hotels where cash is tighter. So, it's been difficult for them to find that cash that they need to raise salaries. I think also, the industry's taken, a hit, reputation wise. It didn't, for no fault of its own, it got a tough press, really, in terms of the hotels having to close and everything else. And I think that the industry needs to sort of get self-promote again. I think it needs to attract talent back. I think to attract talent back into the industry, you've got distribution and your Amazons and your Deliveroos and all these, and the retailers generally, online retail's busy. So you've got a lot of industries that during the pandemic pulled a lot of talent away from hospitality. And I think the problem is we need that back. So it's going to take a bit of work, I think, to promote the brands and the industry.
And then again, I mean, hospitality is a very, well, I wouldn't say office-based, but a lot of people need to be present. It's a service industry. So that's also is a challenge, has been shown during the pandemic. So focusing on the remote work, what would you recommend companies to implement when it comes to the roles you?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you ask. I mean, funny enough, when you talk about trying to attract top talent, one of the key things which I didn't mention, which I probably should have done, is they need to offer flexible working arrangements. I mean, I can't tell you how many people we're talking to that if companies are 5 days in the office, they're just saying, nah, not for me. I think people, the challenge for, I think, interestingly, for just outside of London, the Hertfordshires, the Surreys, the Kents, is that if you've got talent that live outside London now and they've only got to go in 2 days a week, really, they're ending up working from home mostly on London salaries if they're working for London organisations. So interestingly, these peripheral areas of the country, they're going to have to match these salaries because people are now working locally. They're working from home on higher salaries, on London salaries. So I think that's going to be a challenge. And, if companies aren't offering flexible working, they're just going to lose people to companies that are. People's expectation now is you've got to be flexible. And I think also you've got to try and tailor that flexibility to individuals because not everybody's requirements, not everyone's expectations are the same. Some people will want 1 day at home, some people might want 3, and you've got to try and tailor that. Of course, the challenge comes for the small hotels because the small hotels, their revenue manager's been on site and they use them a lot of the time as an extra pair of hands, maybe sit on reception at lunchtime or, help with reservations or whatever. And of course, if they're trying to get those into the hotel 5 days a week and they can't, it causes slightly more of a challenge for the labour on site. So it does cause challenges again for the small hotel group.
So they are the ones who have to increase the salaries you were mentioning before, have to be more flexible and also
let them work from home. I mean, it's a bit of a double whammy, really.
Yeah, good for both of them. Now, you mentioned technology earlier, and with this discussion, because of the implementation, the faster implementation of technology in terms of the man versus machine, man aided by machine, so do you foresee or have you seen roles disappearing maybe in the industry due to the implementation of technology?
That's an interesting one. I'm a big believer man aided by tech. I don't see tech taking over. God, for 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there was all the conversation about a revenue manager is going to get made redundant. I think technology is developing and advancing. You've got some companies that are really investing in tech and they're trying to drive much better decision making. My view is there will be jobs lost through automation and through tech, but there will be jobs created. There'll be jobs where people have got to look after the systems, and there'll be jobs where people then have got to use the information that the system's providing to drive the business forward strategically or decision making wise, whatever. So the question lies is, will there be as many jobs created as might be lost? And my view is probably not. Actually, I think that overall, I think there might be a number of labor intensive jobs that get lost, but you hope that we'll make up some of that gap. I think it'll be interesting times. It's a bit like mobile phones, though. They become more specialist. They become that as it evolves and develops, every job becomes more specialist. And I think that will happen in hospitality. The revenue manager job will become more specialist, it will drive to become more strategic. You'll have data analyst jobs that then the data, and AI might evolve, machine learning. I think it's got a bit of a way to go yet. I don't think it's quite as advanced as people, like to make out. So I think from that side, tech will help us. I think it's going to be a while before we're all sitting at home twiddling our thumbs when the robots do all the work. Terminator style.
Probably some of the or most of the jobs that might be lost are let's say less qualified, and then the ones coming up probably are going to be more qualified.
Labor intensive. The labor intensive jobs will be the ones that go, but the challenge is how many of the higher skilled jobs, and actually the challenge will come for employers of having to always then recruit higher skilled people who are probably on higher salaries. How do we and I would imagine we'll probably talk later on about the young coming into the industry. How do we get those skills to those people quicker? Because often people are in the lower level roles and they work their way up and they learn the more skilled areas of work. So that'll be an interesting gap to fill. Really.
How it develops. So going back to career counseling, you were saying before about that you accompany these people, the professionals throughout their career, several years. Have you seen some of your clients, people that some profiles that might have changed or given up their career?
Yeah. Now this is what I've seen. So we were talking about early on, I said the revenue manager job hasn't changed much, but what I have seen is the sector really change. So I think it's a bit of a double whammy, unfortunately. I think we have Brexit, where we lost a lot of overseas talent. They went home. A lot of Europeans in COVID felt that they were isolated, and and a lot of people went back to home, to families. I think the euro dropped. The pound dropped against the euro, so people weren't sending as much money home if that's what they were doing. They weren't earning more than they could do in Europe, so it wasn't worth being here. Then you had COVID. You had COVID hit, where of course suddenly people were out of work, hotels are closed. So we lost a lot of talent, as I said earlier, to the sort of retail distribution type of industries. I saw a lot of revenue managers go into tech. So we're talking about the development and growth of tech. Well, I can probably name you 6 or 7 very strong revenue managers I know who have gone into those sort of tech businesses. If they I can think one who's gone into an RMS business, evolving new brand, and they're using him to be the expert to talk to clients about what the system can really bring from a revenue management point of view. You can't blame them. It's a safe place to be. Technology is going to keep going. So we lost a lot of talent to those industries. Charity, I can think of a couple of people that went into charities. I think they felt that they wanted to give back, and now they've gone into that. Are they going to come back? So I think it's unfortunately been a couple of different factors have hit at the same time. So I think we've lost a lot of talent, and I think at the moment it's not the end of the world, because not all hotels are open and the market's not fully back. We've not got all the business travel back. Well, obviously, as we record this, we've just had some other announcements, which is not going to help that either. But actually, the problem comes in a year, 2 years time, when all the hotels are open again, business travel returns. We suddenly need another 30% more revenue managers. Where are they going to come from? That is the big question.
And it goes back to what you were saying before about the industry self-promoting and trying to attract.
Yeah. And also for the young, we've not recruited new people into the industry for 2 years. There's not been the need for them. We're trying now, because obviously everyone's desperate for almost every job you can find in a hotel. So but for 2 years we've lost 2 years of people coming in and learning, and they're the people that often move up and develop. So that's a big gap that needs fixing, needs filling.
Mm-hmm. And I'm moving to what you were saying before about the young people. I speak with different schools, universities in different countries, and they all say they've seen the numbers of people going into school drop a lot in hospitality, because young profiles don't really see a future at the moment. They see the industry now and say, well, I don't want to get in there. I'd rather study something else. So with all your experience, what would be your advice to sort of attract that talent, to persuade that young profile, yes, there is a future in this industry?
I could talk all day about this, Pablo. I think it's different. Couple of things. I mean, we go to universities and we talk to people about careers in revenue management. They're doing hospitality degrees and trying to get them into the industry. I'm doing that actually in the new year. I think companies have got something they've got to think about here, promoting the industry. And actually there's something for the industry. Does it need to get together and help drive that promotion? Is there a way the sector needs to get together with UK hospitality, with Kate Nichols, and find a way to really drive promotion? I think the other thing is actually promoting revenue management as a job itself. So you've got the hospitality industry and then you've got revenue management, because people still don't know it's a career option, really. And I think universities are doing a better job because they're putting these modules in. But I think we need to drive the awareness of revenue management more. as a job for people, what I'd say to the graduates and things, I think it's an amazing job. I've always said the same thing, you know, coming from a finance recruitment background and then falling into revenue management. I love it. I think it's varied, it's analytical, it's commercial, it's strategic. You have to have good communication skills to talk to senior management. You have to influence people to back your pricing decisions and make people believe, you know, you're doing the right thing. I just think it offers so much that not many jobs do. That does bring with it its challenges in terms of training and whatever. But I just think as a career, it's quite unique, and I think we've got to do more to promote that. I think, you know, interestingly, we're doing something, we're launching in January, something called the Ambassadors Project, where we're going to have one second-year student and one third-year student that we pick from all the universities, just pick one each, and we are going to get them to do us blogs about their course and about them trying to find work and about trying to find internships, and we'll send that out to the market, so that, because we don't believe in, we think employers think it's easy for these people to get jobs. And we don't think it is. We think it's harder than employers realize for these guys to get jobs. So we're going to use their content, get it out, and let employers see how the graduates feel, and try and raise the awareness, and then bring these graduates to our events that we run and everything else to try and help them build their contacts across the industry.
Okay. Why would you think it's difficult for them? Because there's a disconnect between what they learn and the industry.
I think, for instance, we're recruiting revenue analysts, and the employers want strong Excel skills. But actually, in a lot of the hospitality degrees, they're not doing a lot of Excel work. So they're not coming out with the sort of skill set in you know, to come and do a revenue analyst job. And the problem then lies that they go into F&B, you know, their options aren't then going into revenue management, it's going into other hospitality work. So we're not helping ourselves, I think. The university system's not giving them the skills. And also the employers aren't flexible enough. I think because these people don't have the Excel and everything else, they then want to recruit, obviously, want to recruit an analyst that's already got the skills. It's easier, less training, less time, less cost. But I think we've got to work better at bringing these people in.
And do you see an evolution, an improvement between the relation between schools and companies?
Yeah, I mean, we do our quarterly roundtables. And when we first did those, probably, what was it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, some of the big brands didn't even have revenue management in their graduate intake. So they had accountancy and marketing and HR, and they'd bring these graduate programs. Revenue management wasn't even in that. So the big brands are starting to now put revenue management into their annual intakes. But a lot of the medium-sized businesses or the smaller hotels, you know, then it's harder for them to do that, and they've got to find a way. So I think I think if the universities can spend time building relationships with the hospitality industry, there'll be a better path and a better route in for these graduates to get their entry level roles. And I think that will help revenue management. You know, I think we don't make it easy at the moment to get into at the sort of base level to learn the skills and then move up.
Because they could be also good sellers for their peers, you know, if they manage to go from school and then go up the ladder within the revenue stream.
100%. Well, you've got people like Rob Patterson at Best, you know, who's just left Best Western actually, but you know, he was one of the first that went through the revenue management route and became commercial director, I think, off the top of my head, and then chief exec. And once they start to see that is the path that can happen, then you know, suddenly you'll have people applying for the jobs left, right, and centre. But that's not obvious enough yet, and I think we've got to work on that. But I think if we can help these graduates raise their profile in the market, if we can bring them to events, actually what will happen is the word will spread across people on their course. And then if they're a third year student, it spreads to the second years, and then it spreads to the first years. And so once you've got that happening, then you'll get the message through, you know, focus on revenue management. It's more interesting.
Perfect. Okay, these are questions that I have for you. It's been really interesting going from what the industry is doing at the moment, different profiles, evolution, and then focusing on the young talents that I always like to focus on. So I don't want to steal any more of your time, Ron. It's been a pleasure.
No problem.
So again, thank you
Absolutely,
very much.
Pablo. Really nice to talk to you again. And look, I'm sure I'll bump into you at some event or other in the new year.
Thanks a lot.
That
Yeah,
was
because-
all
See you
for
soon.
now.
Take care.
Hope you found it useful. Remember that you have more information on our website www.torresconsulting.co.uk, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and Twitter. Stay well. Goodbye for now.